Morning and welcome to today's live stream. Really excited about today's live stream. We're running a little behind schedule with some technical difficulties. Nonetheless, here we are. We're going to have a really good day today. I've invited on a fantastic guest speaker, Jeremy Burke, who's with DryRun. We have been talking on a number of occasions about different things related to business owners, but this topic today is for everybody. If you are involved in any kind of selling, if you're, say, running sales teams, if you're a salesperson, if you've ever been in an experience where you have trouble closing people, or you just like to increase your closing ratios, today's the day you want to sit down, turn everything off, and take some notes, because Jeremy's going to share with you a process that he and his team learned that helped them actually explode their sales revenue. They actually closed sales equal to the last 5 years in their business in only 6 months. It's remarkable. When I heard this, I said, you know what? There's so many people right now that are in the sales environment, and they are really struggling. You know, if you're thinking about how it used to be prior to COVID, where we had, you know, the opportunity to sit next to somebody and coach them or direct them, that's not really the case right now. I can recall in my days when I was teaching people, I was coaching people how to talk on the phone at a telecommunications company. And we'd actually what's called double jacking, where I'd plug into their phone and I'd sit beside them. Pretty awkward, I know. But I would listen to the call, and then I would give them direct feedback right away as to what they could have said differently, what kind of questions they could have done. And really that was talking about telephony skills. When you're working in a sales team in your office and you were used to being close to people, and let's say people were making phone calls, especially as a director in a financial services company I used to do about 3-4 years ago, there was like 80 advisors in the office, and anytime we were asked to give some guidance or help in developing their skills. And so that might have been going out on joint calls and observing that advisor, and then doing a debrief after and giving some cues or some insights as how they could have done it differently to have a better outcome, both for their client or prospect and for the whole meeting in general. Now you don't have that opportunity. When I could have just sat next to somebody and gave them direct feedback, having a team that is spread out and working remotely, that's really tough for people right now. And so Jeremy's going to walk us through a process. And this is why I think that's what kind of turned me on, is this process that said, look, this thing is working for our team. It's expanded and blown up our sales revenue. And I think what's really important is that you follow a process. And if the process works, keep driving it through your business funnel. So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to invite Jeremy in here right now. And Jeremy, welcome to our live stream. I want to thank you for your time today and being generous and coming on board. We don't have like a set time, so we can talk as long as we need to talk. So feel welcome to feel, if you think we're going to run out of time, just keep on chugging away. I'm just going to be monitoring to make sure we've got volume going on here. So if anybody out there thinks that they're having audio issues, please let us know, because we would love to know that information.
Well, thank you, David. Let's start with a test. How do I sound there? I sound okay for you? You
sound for me, but I'm trying to see if I can actually see that on any place else out there. I don't see that right now. That's what's bothering me.
Okay. Well, let's assume that it's good until somebody says otherwise there. Perfect. Thank you, Corey.
Corey saying, yeah, you can hear?
Good,
awesome.
Good.
That's good.
Yeah, so I should give myself, I guess, an introduction there. So we were talking the other day about just different business topics. You wanted to talk to me about cash management, which is actually the company, and I'll talk a little bit more about my company later there. And I'm very passionate about this topic. So to kind of give you a background on my experience. So I started my sales career back in 1997, so 23, 24 years ago. And I worked for the Brick Warehouse Corporation. So, for any of us Canadians, you probably are familiar with the Brick Warehouse and sells furniture and appliances. That's where I kind of got my real sales career. I worked for Intuit for 10 years, and now I'm the director of a software company here out of Edmonton, Alberta, that does cash management and advisory services. And so basically, I've had a career of sales and been a top performer in all three positions. I think I was number 2 in the Brick when I worked there. And I was one of the first business development managers in Canada for helping build teams there. 30, 40 people there in regards to sales. And now I'm directing a sales team again. And the first thing that everybody always wants is they want that secret edge in regards to be able to sell more and close more. And the first thing I like to tell people is that what I learned from a guy named Ian Howell. So Intuit paid about $250,000 for this guy to come to Intuit and train myself and 10 other people there. And basically, I kind of more look at it as deprogramming, because I've taken and probably invested in my career 6 figures into all kinds of different sales courses, all the top ones, Covey, spin selling. I can't even remember. I've read every book on sales there and different things. And the thing is all of these tactics and strategies are actually useless today. I would say since 1997 that they have actually died. So sales has died back in 1997 is a bold statement that I've made in the past there. And the reason is nobody wants to be sold. And all sales processes are developed on a model from 90 years ago that are there to manipulate individuals into getting them to make a decision there that is beneficial for the individual that's doing the selling. And so if you find it harder and harder nowadays there to actually make sales and close sales and everything like that, and there is actually a reason, and the reason is because of the way humans actually make decisions. So there was a program that was taught to me by this guy named Ian Howell out of the UK. They brought us into Toronto, and they basically spent 2 days deprogramming me first to get me ready to spend time and learn these steps. And it was called the client decision cycle. And so it is a customer-centric process that helps people make decisions. And the cool thing I liked about it there is, and this is what we're going to talk about, and we'll kind of go through the stages and show you guys how it applies to any situation and any decision. So literally every decision ever made on this planet of Earth by any person there, big or small, follows the same 5 steps. And so once you understand how people make decisions, it is very easy to help them along the journey. So I'd say that the new meta for interactions in the sales force, and I even hate the word using salespeople or sales force there because it has such a negative term. But the meta is to be a facilitator of good quality decisions. And so why 1997? Well, 1997 was when the internet basically came broadly available to the public. And at that point in time, people fundamentally changed the way that they behave. So just kind of give you an idea, back in the day, prior to 1997, if you wanted to buy something, say a stove, your stove in your house broke down and you decided that you wanted to go buy a new stove, you used to go down to Sears or the Brick and basically go talk to the sales professional who was a product expert, and they could deliver the information there to help you determine which stove that you were going to buy. Now we have the internet. So most of the shopping and most of the decision process there, actually 60% of the decision-making process happens before even a person talks to a salesperson. So the first step, and we have kind of slides there too. So actually, the first thing I wanted to do is I kind of had a slide there. So if you can go to just the slide 1. So the question you got to ask yourself is, Well, if salespeople are useless nowadays, in regards to the old processes and trying to convince people and close people, you got to ask, how can I be relevant, and why would a customer pay for our time? And so if you go to slide 3, and I know I gave you a bunch of slides there, but where does the decision begin there? So if you go to the next slide after that, uh, this is interesting doing live. I probably should have practiced this and go, let's get, but anyways, I'm going to go to this part there and everything like that. So every single
Jeremy,
human,
I'll just,
we can go there. We can go there.
I want to interrupt you just for a second to
Yeah.
say that one of the things that, well, there we go. One of the things that you said that got my attention was, this doesn't have to be just for someone who's in sales. This whole process is about how to really engage with other people and to have a better communication, isn't it?
How about and what I'll do through this there to kind of take it through the experience so that it's good for people there. I'll take it through 2 different approaches. One is a personal decision. So we'll use an example if my TV broke down and I have to get a new one. So I'll apply that, and then I'll also apply it to if you're working with an individual and trying to help them make a decision. And we'll go to a business. I'm assuming most people on LinkedIn here are going to be business people there, so we'll talk that way there. So the first stage, so there's 5 stages in every decision. The first stage is called a discovery. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to evaluate what I need to do to move my life ahead in the personal sense, or move my business forward. And there's fundamental questions there that people keep on asking themselves, and those questions are: what do I need to do to move my business forward, or move my personal life and my satisfaction in life ahead? And then the next question you got to ask yourself is, why would anybody want to pay me for this time there to invest in helping myself out there? And then what is the mechanism to move to the next stage? So go from discovery to the next stage, which is going to be called selection. And what is that mechanism? So if we go to the next slide there, so what is the problem? Basically, what people are always asking themselves there. So if my TV broke down, for example, first of all, I'm then going to start going through this process of discovering what the issue is there. Well, my TV's broke. Well, what is the situation? Well, and goes my form of entertainment that I spend 2-3 hours a night watching there. My kids they can't watch their shows there, and they're going to stress out my wife there, and therefore I need to go and buy a new television. Pretty simplistic there in that approach there. So the return on investment is that I'm going to have entertainment, and also that I'm going to have peace of mind, and I'm going to be able to collect information. So there's all kinds of returns, and I start evaluating there that this is actually the problem. Now, in a business aspect, when you're interacting with somebody there, the question every business owner asks themselves is, what can I do to improve my business, or what keeps me up at night? Those are the kind of 2 questions that are running through business people's minds there. We're always continuously looking at to improve. Or another thing there, especially with COVID, is how can I just stay in business?
That's interesting that you say that, because when a recent survey was done not long after COVID hit, it was in the fall of last year. And one of the issues was that for any business that had expenses running above $10,000 a month, they had roughly 2 weeks of cash on hand.
Yep.
And when you go into a lockdown and all of these programs are not really in place, and if you can remember how hard and how difficult it was to apply and to find money, devastating for companies. And so all of a sudden they have to work remotely and count on their team to actually just not miss a beat. And so I'm really looking forward that people are going to get a lot out of this, because it's so important right now.
Yeah, and interestingly, well, that's the space that I work in there. So I work in cash. So our whole shtick, if you want to look at it, there is we provide a technology that integrates with accounting softwares to help businesses basically future-proof their business by understanding where their business is going and understanding what their cash levels are. Just to go back to that part there, restaurants, for example, were they were probably the industry worst hit by COVID. The average business in 2017 in North America, the average restaurant, had 14 days of cash.
Yeah, there you go.
So when COVID came along and the governments in all countries shut their restaurants down for a period of time, 2-3 weeks there, they were done. And that's why 60% of the restaurants, when you walk downtown in any major city, don't exist anymore. In a year, 60% gone. That's how through. And you know what? There's got to be, so I'd get a little off topic there, but I feel a little bit bad, but I don't feel bad too, because one of the major things, and you work in personal finance, and I worked back in personal finance back in the 2000s as well too, is the first lesson we learned is make sure you have a nest egg of cash saved up there for a period of time of 3 to 6 months there, so that if you lose your job, that you basically can survive until you get the next one. Well, businesses needed to do the same thing too. But anyways, so there's a lot of stress.
As part of the danger of starting a business, if you look at, because we have to make a distinction between businesses that were very much entrenched into their industry and they had lines of credit established. When you're talking about a new business under, say, 3 to 5 years, certainly under 3 years, a lot of these businesses are run by just regular people who decided, I'm going to start a business for whatever reason, whether they got laid off or fired, or they just had an idea and said, I can do that better. Many of these people went into business using like home equity line of credit, and they don't have that stash of cash that's been sitting in a bank account for a long time. This is all they've got. And so they quickly, like many businesses, they run out of money pretty fast. And so you're right, helping a company with cash management, it ought to be one of the like top 3 things they do right away.
Yeah, you know what? I love business. Business, though, is a beautiful and dangerous animal all in the same package there. Because I failed. I've failed a couple times. I can tell. And I probably failed more than a lot of other people there in regards to different business decisions. That's why today there I kind of have some information. I can talk about the subjects very well because I've been there. I've been in failure situations, been in success situations.
Yeah.
I've racked up a line of credit and couldn't pay it off there before there. So no different. And they don't really teach it in school either. Like I went to business school, and I'm currently teaching people with PhDs on business things that they had never learned in school too. So a lot of it's learned on the street and just through experience. Coming back around to decisions though, making there. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to ask yourself the question is, what can I do to move my business forward, or what keeps me up at night? And so if you understand that's the first question that people are asking themselves in a client-centric way and a facilitator of good decisions there, what you can do is start elaborating what information those individuals need to provide them so that they can make that decision. That answers the question of why people will pay you, is what they need to do. So you need to present information to them, and that's no different than back in the day. But instead of it just a features and benefits process there, like the normal sales process, you truly want to make sure that you're giving them the information that they require as quickly and easily as possible. Okay, so that's the first stage is they need to discover what the problem is. I discovered the TV one pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
In business, sometimes it could be a little more elaborate, but you want to basically sit there and think that this is the questions these people ask, and what you need to do is provide information to them there that can help them answer those questions. Now, ultimately, though, if you kind of go through, I'll just look on my side here for slides, PowerPoint here. If you go to slide number 3 there.
I think, was that 3?
I think there, did I send you a different PowerPoint there too? No, go back. So anyways, it doesn't matter. I'll just forget the slides there. So the problem is you don't know oftentimes there. So the people don't oftentimes, and I didn't want to actually use the PowerPoint slide presentation there. So let's just remove that, and let's just have a talk out about it there, because it's just going to cause more issues there. It's interesting there. I did research, and they talked about back in the day. I personally hate PowerPoint. And the reason is the human brain, so depending on what your beliefs are and everything like that, let's assume there that's a history of 40,000 years of communication there. First, we started out with, grunts and groans. Then we started out with cave paintings. And then we formalized into writing. But PowerPoint's only been around for the last 30 years. So the average brain can't handle looking at PowerPoint. So it's absolutely useless for the audience there. So we'll just move along in regards to conversation and storytelling. So we're talking about making a decision. So the first stage is helping people discover what their issues are. Okay. Now, before people can move to the next stage there, and you probably see this oftentimes in kind of relation there. How many people have actually had a client come to them, or a prospective client come to them and say, "Hey, I'm interested in blah 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 blah, and what is your price?" And it's probably one of the hardest objections to overcome there in the sales model, because people are coming to you, they've already collected information elsewhere, and now putting those expectations on you. And in sales, the last thing that you want to do is talk about your price, especially when you have no recollection of the information they have there. So pricing is a conversation that happens what's called in the selection stage. So what you need to do is you need to bring back that person and see if they actually developed a return on investment, if they truly understand and have quantified the value of the discovery processor. And so that's the first mechanism that moves us from one stage to the next stage. So, and this is an important part. So while you're helping a person provide them information, you want to basically also make sure that you're feeding them 4 pieces of information. So these 4 pieces of information develop a return on investment. So the first thing that people need to understand is, how much value am I going to get out of this decision? So let's say for the TV situation, well, if I don't have a new TV there, my kids are going to drive me absolutely nuts there. And that value is priceless, because if I worked a hard day's work there and I want to come home and just sit in front of the dumb tube, that is valuable to me, because that's going to happen on every day. That's my lifestyle that I have. In a business situation there, let's say that a person is worried about their business because of the impacts of COVID and worried about their cash process. The information I need to provide to them is helping them determine if they can keep their business. So let's say they made $5 million a year. Well, if you can keep that business in business, that's worth $5 million a year to you. So first of all, that's the return, or the amount of money that we're going to get, or the amount of value we're going to get out of the decision. And that's what we're looking for. The next thing is what is the period of time that return is going to come? So Aaron talks about this all the time there. I talk about it all the time there. And in a case of a TV is, well, the TV on average lasts, say, 10 years. So I'm going to get that return every year over the next 10 years. So that is highly valuable to me there. And in the business situation, if I can keep my $5 million a year business in business, I'm also going to see a return of $5 million a year. So it's worth $5 million per year to me in the situation. Then there's the 2 costs. So in every return on investment, there's the return, and then there's the 2 cost expectations there. Cost number 1 is how much time is it going to cost me to invest in learning and implementing this program and system in place and the thing there. So, for TV, it's not really a lot. You hang it up on the wall and basically you sit there, and it's pretty much a very high gratification. That's pretty much why everybody owns a television in their house, because there's a lot of gratification that comes from TVs. In a business there, you got to think about, well, if I'm going to learn cash management processes, systems, and places, and put them in place for my business there, that could take me hundreds of hours a year. So am I willing to invest hundreds of hours of my time to basically recoup and gain a $5 million a year advantage? So you got to take into the time cost, and then there's the financial cost. Is how much does that cost me in regards to the decision? So, a TV nowadays is maybe $500. Again, you can buy a good TV for $500. I remember when I worked at the Brick, the first 42-inch plasma television I sold back then was $22,000, and now that TV's maybe $200. So, values obviously changed and everything like that. But in the person of the thing, so if I'm looking, for example, somebody external to offer me cash management advisory services, there's got to be the concern of keeping myself in business, $5 million every year. How much time is it going to take me? For our company, we work with companies and tell them that we can help them out within 50 hours per year, so they understand how much time it's going to cost them in interacting back and forth. And then the financial cost of basically implementing that system there. So how much am I going to have to pay a financial professional to do that? So no different than the conversations that you have, Aaron, I'm sure on a day-to-day basis there. You look at a person comes to you, they have $1 million to invest. They want to know, I have $1 million, so that's my financial costs. They want to know over what period of time, what their interest rate is that they can expect on those investments, the return, and how long it's going to take to get that return, and how much time they're going to have to invest into working with you to make that return a reality.
Yeah, roughly speaking.
So maybe we can stop on that and just talk a little bit about that to make sure everybody's clear and understand that I'm not going too fast there.
So where in my world, I think the first thing that comes down to when someone is making a decision to work with me or not, it really is, I think, first is trust. So they want to know, because we're kind of working here with many times with an intangible product, we'll say. If it's life insurance, obviously money, you can put it in your hand, but life insurance is a little bit different. But people really want to say, can I trust this person? Do I understand and do I get along with this person? Am I going to get the kind of information I need in order to make a decision? And so that's what got me at my attention with you, is that you had this process of trying to help. So anytime that I've been, so one of the things we talked about was, do you ever have a customer that sort of drags their feet a little bit or asks you to follow up next month, but they never seem to say, let's begin. And everybody in business experiences that, whether you're building a home, interior designer, doing construction, doing finance, people are trying to make like big decisions that it's not something that it's not, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? That's an easy thing, but these larger decisions take sometimes a little bit longer for people to get their head around. Am I making the right decision? And am I making it the decision with the right individual? So trust usually goes along. What I liked was often you said this to me and you said, David, it's not about you. Because so many people can take this personally when somebody says, can you just wait? Can you give me another month? And you said, it's not about you. And it's so easy for you to say, I'm a nice guy. What's wrong? How come they don't like me? Or I have all this reputation behind me of great work, satisfied clients, and the person's still not willing to commit. And you said, it's not about you. It's about their decision-making process. And if you can go through this process and help them through that process, that's when they're going to move forward. So this is why I wanted to get you on this stream today, because this is really important. It's a funnel, basically, that you're sharing with us today. Is going to be very useful.
Yeah, and actually, this is actually a perfect opportunity because you mentioned about your experiences and you think it's about trust. And I'm going to let you know there that trust has nothing to do with the decision. And so just to take it back there, so the first thing in decision is gather an information so I can develop a return on investment. So people oftentimes, like when I've made decisions on financial plan and personal finance and business and everything like that, I want to evaluate and build the best ROI. So we live in a world of infinite possibilities. So, the decision making, and we talked about this offline too the other day, about the average human can only make 3 major decisions a year. Now, there's also stats saying there that the average human there has to make over 3,000 decisions a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very hard for people to make decisions, especially large decisions and everything like that. But once you understand there that it's just a gathering of information and developing a return on investment, those things come first. And that is, out of the conversation piece there, that is 60% of a decision. So you should focus 60% of your energy on helping people facilitate that. And that's a large part of it. It has nothing to do with trust. Trust comes into section 2 there, which is called selection. Once I've developed, because I give you an example, I provide information to businesses to help them understand the technology they're into making a decision on cash management. And I help them develop, how much money they can expect there to keep in their business, what the timelines are, what their financial input, their time input cost would be there to manage that system, and what it would cost there to buy my software. So though I make sure I have all those 4 things lined up. And then I say to a person, now that you've determined and quantified, so quantified, use real numbers, not qualitatively they're made a decision because you feel good about it, but quantified a business decision, then And only then, at that point in time, can you get into the next section, which is called selection. And that question is who should I work with?
Mm-hmm.
Because like in my business, for example, there in the cash management space, there's over 150 different software companies that would love to have those clients' money. However, how do you pick one? Because you can't pick all 150 software tools and then implement in your business. That's just ridiculous. You got to pick one. So then that's when you come into the section of things. What is the criteria that's important to me in regards to building a relationship or a partnership with a company there or a person? But if you haven't, this is why people oftentimes get hung up. If they haven't spent the time because they're trying to busy and going, well, look at me, I'm the nicest person, I'm good, I'm going to be there around. You're talking about the wrong stuff. Pricing comes into the selection criteria.
So what you're suggesting is salespeople are coming about this at the wrong order.
100%.
They're going in saying, like me and trust me.
Doesn't matter.
They're coming in with that. They're leading with that first, and then they're coming with the technical or what somebody has to make a decision on. You're saying lead with that first, and then they'll make a decision. Okay, are you the right person that I should work with?
Stone cold, give them the information they need to develop the return on investment. Because it's not about you and it's not about the relationship. It's about them making their decision there, and they need to develop that. Because you know what? You could be the nicest person in the world, but if I'm not going to get the return that I expect there, or if I can get a return that's higher, you got to realize you're always competing against everything else as a return. So if I have $1 million, I have an infinite amount of decisions to make. But if I decide to give you that $1 million there, David, and you that's it, that's my final decision. So I am very worried about that, and if I can't see the return on investment, you're never getting that $1 million. The person that can develop and give that return on investment is the person that is 60% most likely to get the money there. Then the next step goes in, okay, I'm going to put you into a pool of, in my case there for my software company, 150 other software companies that look the same, and I'm going to sit there and try to pick one of those 150 companies. And so what you need to do is understand how that works. So what you need to do is ask the person, you go, okay, now that you've determined, yes, you should do this investment and you've quantified the returns, why should you work with me? And you want to ask them, what's important in regards to having a relationship with a person on an ongoing basis, and tell me about that. And you should start collecting that information. So in my case there, I actually have a sheet, and I've asked, so I deal with accountants and bookkeepers, and I ask financial professionals every time. I say, hey, if you're to pick a relationship with somebody, what's important to you? And oftentimes they'll sit there and say, well, in my case, they'll say the product needs to be good. I need to be able to trust the person. I need to be able to establish a return on investment there. Cost is important. Pricing is important there. And these are all the things that they do. And what I do is I just write them all down, and I go, and then, and until they just run out of things. Now, the average human can list out 3 to 5 different things. But what I do is, because I've asked the question thousands of times, I have actually 50 different things that thousands of people have told me, different people. And I say, okay, here's actually check off. Here's the ones you said they're highly important to you. But here's a bunch of other things people said are important to me too there. I want you to read through this list and pick out things and rank them. So I put another column in a spreadsheet, and I say, hey, actually, if you give me, no, I'm not going to bother sharing it. Once again, we're going to stay away from PowerPoints and everything like that. But I give them another column. I say, rate it, low, medium, or high. Okay, is this low importance, medium importance, or high importance? Because I want to know it's important. And then the third column is, how do you rate me in our interaction? Do you see me as meeting your below your expectations, meeting your expectations, or exceeding your expectations? Ideally, I want to meet or exceed all my clients' expectations. And then I also say, hey, here's a list of all my competitors. I literally give a sheet of 150 of my competitors and say to the person, feel free, call them, find out what their decisions, just what they can offer you and everything like that. Come back, but you have to pick one. My finger's over here. One. Pick one. And so it's a hard thing to do. So you know what the easiest thing to do is? Pick the person that meets or exceeds your expectations the most. And then that allows you, so they make a decision on who they're going to work with. That allows them to move in the next stage. Now, I'm going to bring that back to the television situation too. So I've developed an ROI that my kids aren't going to bug me there if I have a TV. Uncle TV can entertain them in the evenings when I'm tired and don't want to work with them. Now, I'm just joking around, folks. There, I have 3 kids, and I love my kids, and I spend time with them. And yes, we watch TV together, but I don't consider that an alternative there. But the next thing after that is, who do I go choose? Well, I can go to eBay. I can go to Amazon. I can go to the Brick. I can go to the Best Buy. I can go to Walmart. I can go to all these different places. Who do I choose? Well, who has the best price? Who has the product in stock and is available for me there to pick up or deliver it to me there? Do they have the model that I want? These are all the things that I start asking myself. This is where you start delivering that part there, and like that. Is David going to be available, in the financial professionals for me to contact and talk about? How regularly are they going to meet up? So these are all the pieces of information they need to do to make that decision so they can evaluate if you meet or exceed their expectations. But if they pick you, that's fantastic, because I get 10 minutes left here before I got to go to my next call there. The next stage, so that's the next 20%. So 60% is discovery, 20% there is in selection. That's 80% of a decision. Now, this is the next part there that is really important. The next stage is called concerns. And this is giving the person the opportunity to address any issues, and also you as a partner to address any issues you have with that individual before you actually engage in a relationship or a partnership or a sale. So you ever sell somebody and they come back and then they go, yeah, I changed my mind. And you're like, why did you change your mind? It's because you skipped this step. You haven't talked about all the probabilities. So this is where warranties come into place, satisfaction guarantees, talking about things there to alleviate and reduce the risk of them churning back and going back a stage. Because as the cycle goes, my finger goes like this, as the cycle goes, from discovery to selection to concerns to a purchase decision. Okay, thanks for doing that. It goes in a cycle. People can also move back in the opposite direction if the values weren't met. So if you don't talk about the concerns about the relationship, and then you decide to purchase, sometimes people come back and they go, "Oh, I've changed my mind," and this is buyer's remorse. So if you have people like that, you didn't evaluate the concerns phase. So you need to go back and allocate and check if you maybe didn't do a good enough job on the selection phase. And sometimes you might have to go right back there and go to the original ROI. And
But how does that manifest in a conversation though with your prospect or your clients, where you'll say, do you have any concerns about what we're talking about? And they say, oh, nothing, because many people are afraid to actually voice their objection. So how do you deal with that then?
So I'm the expert. I'm the facilitator of the conversation. So what I do is I go through things. A lot of people don't freely offer up information. So I start the conversation first. So the first thing I do is I say, okay, well, in cash management and partnerships with accounting firms, for example, there, I say my number one concern in dealing with an accounting firm there is their time capacity, especially during tax season. I said, I don't want to get involved with a person there that feels that they can do their job 9 months of the year, because cash management is a weekly activity. So if I'm going to partner up with you in regards to working with your customers on cash management, you can't turn around to me and say, well, Jeremy, between this month and this month, I don't do anything because I'm so busy on taxes. That's not going to fly with me. So that's a concern that I address. That alleviates the pressure for them there to start throwing concerns back at me. And they're like, well, Jeremy, my concern is you're ugly. And I'm like, well, that's not really a reasonable concern there, but that's going to stop us from doing business, is it? But if it is, how can we overcome that? Maybe I have a prettier person on my staff there that you want to deal with, right? So the thing is with concerns is to bring them up. And then what you want to do is talk about them so that they never happen, or have a plan of action in place there where that they, if it does happen, we can cover it. So I'll give you one from just a conversation I had before I got on the phone with you. I charge a certain fee for a certain amount of licenses there for my software on a bulk deal there. Now, a person said to me, well, what happens if in a year you fill up all those licenses and I want to buy the next set? Are you going to charge me more? And I said, yes, I'm going to charge you more, because I've already helped you in this astronomical return on investment where you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and I'm charging hundreds of dollars a month. And maybe the next thing I'll maybe increase my price a little bit. And they said, oh, well, that concerns me. And I said, well, how about we do this? We'll agree upon a price for the first group of packages today for year one. And then for year two, we'll talk about it today before we make the decision, and we'll agree a price for that package if we get to that stage. I said to him, my concern is not first is getting through the first package there to get to the second package there. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves there. But if the case, would it alleviate and alleviate the distress that you're having right now if we talk about the price under the second package and just agree upon it today? It's not going to happen for a year from now. It might not even ever happen, but that was enough there to overcome that concern. And so that's one. And then the people oftentimes to say to me, well, Jeremy, I'm worried about, and especially in the software industry, they're terrible about this. And, I will be the first to admit that I've done it too there. The software industry does a great job of selling you up front on their software and then basically leaving you at the altar there when it's time to do your work. They'll just sit there and sell you software and then run away, and you'll never see that person again there because they've accomplished and made their sale. So that's a concern for a lot of customers. So I say, well, this is our plan and program that we have in plan. After you buy the software, we're going to follow up with you on a weekly basis. We're going to check in, make sure that you're moving your business forward, provide you the services and everything like that. So we talk about those concerns in detail. And if the person across the table is not bringing them up for me, I bring them up. Because that's my job as a professional, is to facilitate good information, to uncover concerns. Because just because they don't say it to you doesn't mean they're not thinking it.
So you don't back away from that. You actually bring them forward.
No, people love it too. And so that's 95% of a decision, those 3 stages. So once again, discovery, selection, concerns. You go through those stages, you think about it, you help facilitate a good decision for that person. It's customer centric. It's all about them. I don't personally care what the person's decision is. I don't care if it's yes or no. What I care about is the worst waste of time in business there is indecision. This is where you get into the situation where a person is like dragging you along for 6 months, stringing you along, and you're like, are we going to do business or not there? And you got to be upfront about it there, because you can't waste 6 months and 300 calls and going to lunch and dinners with the customers there to find out the answer is going to be no. Give it to me straight. Yes or no, are you in? And this whole process speeds up. So just to give you kind of an example, prior to our partnership relationships usually took 6 months, if ever, to establish there prior to this when I implemented this process in our company. My average turnaround time from the time that I meet a person, and our process is quite elaborate, from the time I meet them to having 4 to 6 hours of conversations over 4 meetings is on average 20 to 30 days for a partnership. Now, industry lead-in closing rates in the software industry is from the time you meet somebody to the time they make a decision there, 20% is a good sales closing ratio. The CDC gives you 100% closing ratio because you're closing people with yeses or nos. You don't care which one it is. But conversely, which is interesting, I found that our closing ratio is anywhere from 30 to 35% if you put it on standard things there. So we are doing 30% more than top grade salespeople in regards to people making decisions. And it's because we follow this process. So we get them in, we educate them, we give them an ROI, we help them pick us, we help them make sure that they have no buyer's remorse. And then the 4th stage is called purchase. You need to make it easy for people to purchase. You don't want people to go through all those situations there and then find out automatically there that they have to pay in some kind of weird Bitcoin currency there, and it's going to take them 3 months there to get going. So once you get to the stage, the purchase decision needs to be quick and easy. All the paperwork needs to be there. It needs to be quick to set up and quick to churn over so that they can move. And then the 5th stage is called delivery. And delivery is basically meeting the expectations of the original return on investment. So in my case, I often talk to financial professionals that say, hey, if you partner up with us in regards to cash management, I can help you gain 10 clients in the next 12 months, which is going to be worth about $100,000+ in your business. They're offering these advisory services to your clients. But my goals are in the first 3 months to make sure they have at least one paying client. That way, whatever they're making, it far exceeds the return on investment that I'm asking for, and that costs, and that locks them in. And then have a goal in place for month 6, month 12. And then what you do is at the end of each one of these little periods or milestones, you sit down with the person and go, okay, did we achieve that goal? Your return on investment, your expectations was this that we set for, the first quarter, first half, and first year. And did we meet those milestones? If yes, fantastic. Let's keep on moving forward. If no, was it your fault or was it my faults there? What can we do to change and adjust and improve the process there to make it worthwhile to continue? Or should we even continue doing business? For example, an accounting firm, if I meet up with them and they agree to become a partner and I start calling on a weekly basis and they're not picking up the phone and they say, oh, it's tax season. And I said, no, we already talked about that. We said that you can't be a partner with that kind of attitude there. And if they display that attitude, I'm like, you can either fix it or you can hit the road. And that's the way you need to be in business there. And it seems cold, but you have made personal contracts with one another in a partnership and a relationship. And I always say to people there, when I'm engaged in a relationship with them, they're 51% responsible for the relationship. I'm 49% responsible. I can't care more about their business than they care about it. And in your industry too, you can't care more about your clients' well-being and their financial success and their retirement plans than they care about it themselves. That's why I quit the personal financial planning thing, because I was tired of hanging out with people and seeing people make decisions where they rather smoke $500 worth of dope a month there than putting money into their long-term investments there and retire a happy life.
Well, that might be the clients that you're working with might need to have to change. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was delivery.
Yeah.
Would you say that delivery, is that also part of like aftercare follow-up? Because so often you hear in sales where somebody says, I bought this from this person and never heard from them again.
Yep. And so that's what I always say is that is the part of delivery is setting together a plan. So you've put together an agreed upon plan and structure of contact points and whatever the agreement was after they made. Selling people is easy. Okay. I've been in sales for 23 years. I've sold lots of people. Keeping people happy. So sales is the start of a sale. The actual transaction of taking money from a person is the beginning of a sales process there, the way I look at it there. And so having those systems and plans there is highly important in place there, because if you can't deliver on all this stuff that you're talking about, you might as well just shut up and not say anything, because it's not going to work out. You're going to have people fail out and come back around, and then you're going to get a bad reputation there of being a person there that takes people's money and runs.
Yeah, I mean, when people lead with all these positive things, this and this and this is going to come out, and then they actually, do the sale and then don't follow up, don't have a really special relationship, people really feel bad about the decision.
Yeah, and that's the last thing I want to point out there. So I went from sleazy, not sleazy, but manipulative. All sales processes are designed for manipulation there. Okay. So all sales processes, if you look at it, are designed to engage, basically question people, get the information, overcome rebuttals, and close. And it's a very manipulative, self-centered process there. And it doesn't work. And people don't want to work with you there if you're going to apply that. The client decision cycle there has been probably one of the most freeing aspects of my life there, because I have had now the ability, I understand how people make decisions. All I need to do is be a facilitator of good questions, give them good information, and you'll be amazed that a lot of people actually pick positive things. But the worst thing that they do is don't waste my time. But in the last 4 years of my career, in the 23 whatever years I've been doing sales for, I have never felt better about what I do. I get up in the morning, I don't feel any guilt about the process I apply. All I'm doing is helping people make good decisions for them. What's best for them? Sometimes what's best for them is not best for me, and that's okay. But you apply that to a large enough group of people, and you'll get the results that you're looking for. And this is my last thing that I probably say for today. My definition of a business is a series of systems and processes that give predictable results. Applying good systems like the client decision cycle there is a wonderful thing, because you're going to get predictability there and you'll be amazed. And then that's where the businesses blow up. And as David said there, for our personal company there, we've been around for 5 years. We have managed to execute and basically double our business in the last 6 months comparatively to the last 5 years. What it took us to build the first 5 years, we've now done in 6 months because of this process. So I'm a huge advocate of it. If anybody wants to learn more, check out a guy named Ian Howell, IANHOWELL, on LinkedIn. And his company is called Rocket Performance in the UK. Guy's an amazing guy, still a mentor today there, even with me. We meet regularly, talk about different things. And if anybody's looking to accelerate their business and help people make better decisions there, he's definitely a guy to touch base with there. He's a master of this program.
Well, thanks, Jeremy. I put your LinkedIn profile address at the beginning of this live stream so that people could connect with you. Great system, great process. I know that there's an actual presentation, so if anybody's interested, you just have to contact Jeremy for more detail on this. And it's great information, and I appreciate you sharing this, because so many people I know want to get better sales in an environment that's just not easy to do over Zoom calls right now. So I appreciate your time.
Well, let's change the world. Let's stop saying better sales, because sales is dead. Better decisions.
Better decisions. That's right.
Let's stick with better decisions there. Thank you for this opportunity, David. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, especially if there's anybody in the audience, there's an accountant or bookkeeping and wants to learn about the biggest problem in business right now, which is poor cash management, more than happy to talk to them about that and showing you and your clients how to manage their business and keep businesses in business there. It's another topic. As passionate as I am about decisions, I'm way more passionate about keeping businesses in business there, and I'd love to share that information as well too. Thanks again. Have a great day, man.
All the best. Thanks. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Well, everybody, I appreciate you tuning in today to see that there's a lot of information. I know sometimes it's hard to figure out through these sessions, some of the information of how can that be applied to your situation. So I encourage you to reach out to Jeremy on LinkedIn and fire your questions to him on how he applies this process in certain situations. He's in business trying to get people to purchase and working with accountants mostly, and to purchase their accounting software. So it's important that he understands what an accountant is working through, so he knows his customer very well. And I'm certain that he'll be able to help you with your business in terms of applying different situations. We'll be live again next Wednesday as well at 11 o'clock, working on the details of that session right now. And I appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions at all as to this session or any of the other sessions we've done before, please fire away your questions to me on LinkedIn. All of my contact information is there, email and phone, if you'd like to follow up with me. And once again, hope you're having a great afternoon, and we'll see you next week. Take care.